I did actually want to say one thing, Steve.
Go ahead.
That,
We're live now, by the way, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was watching something on YouTube, and they were talking about Kamala, and obviously the big news in the polls.
Yeah.
And this one person was saying, "No, I'm not going to vote for it. I'm going to vote for an independent." And all I could think was of you sitting watching this, bashing your head against the desk, but multiple times. Because you've said again and again and again, you might as well be spitting into the wind if you vote for an independent. You really have two choices: Republican or Democrat.
Yeah,
exactly. This is it, boys and girls. You know, get out there. As you said, put your clean pants on if you've had an accident, and get out there and vote.
I think I've said recently as well. I can't remember if I've said it in a video or not, but I know I've said it. I think I've probably said it either to Dana or to Jason, just in private conversation. If you're planning on voting third party in this election, especially if you're living in a swing state, just instead of voting for a third party candidate, just get a mail-in ballot and take it into the bathroom and wipe your ass with it and flush it, because you'll do about as much good as if you actually voted.
Yeah, like, and I know a lot of people don't like to accept that, but it's a fact. It's just math.
Yeah.
It's just math. It's not anything to do with ideology or anything like that. And the thing that bothers me the most is that I've been saying even before 2015, I've been saying for a very long time, it would be great to have more than two options that are actually viable.
Of course,
but that's never going to happen unless that starts on a grassroots level at the local level and build up. And there's got to be work. But the thing is what pisses me off about the various, third, fourth, fifth, and parties is that they never seem to want to do the actual work of building an actual party and a coalition and getting people in place. Because even in the ridiculously unlikely event that you actually got somebody elected from some other party other than those two, right, as president, their agenda goes nowhere because they have no popular support in Congress. So it doesn't mean anything. So all it is patting yourself on the back. But if you actually could build, and think of it, think of it, even how the Tea Party took over the Republican Party. That's exactly what they did. They started and they got people elected to Congress in districts where they could, and they kept building and building. Yeah. And you think if back in 2015, when people that weren't happy with the Democratic choices, if they had started doing something then, there would actually be a coalition, and even though there wouldn't be enough really to support a president, there would be enough to say, hey, Democrats, whoever you're putting up, you got to take us seriously, because the only way you're going to control the House and Senate is if we come along with you, and you're going to have to make some concessions to us. So we'll support your guy as president, but they're going to have to support us elsewhere, or else your agenda is not going to go anywhere. And it could actually have some power, but they didn't do that.
And you mentioned the Tea Party. I mean, that's a great example, because if you look back at the origins of the Tea Party back in after Obama was elected, and really, it really started to kick into high gear in 2010 in the ramp up for those midterms and the primaries leading into those midterms. A lot of those Tea Party candidates were people who, in previous elections or previous years, had been fucking around in like the Constitution Party or the Libertarian Party. Like there was a lot of those Tea Party people who had been doing like the right-wing third party thing and getting nowhere. And then they said, oh, let's take over the Republican Party because that actually has a place at the table. And that's what they did. And 6 years later, they nominated and elected Donald Trump. So, this idea that a lot of the more fatalist sort of doomerist leftists have, like, well, yeah, we'll never be able to take over the Democrats. Well, you could.
No, I do believe that. I do believe
it won't make any. But there's evidence to the contrary on the other side. Like if the left did the equivalent to the Democrats, what the far right did to the Republicans, less than a decade ago, or actually a little more than a decade ago now, maybe 15 years ago. Like, why would we expect that something similar would not happen? Like, if the far right can take control of the Republicans, why can I'm not saying the far left would take total control, but the idea that it's just, well, somehow the Democrats want votes, guys. The Democratic Party wants votes, and they want to. How do you get power in a fucking democracy? You win fucking elections. God damn it!
it's certainly a more
part
practical path to power than third parties or, revolution or all that bullshit. I mean,
I know you're on my side, but you open your mouth again, and I'm playing Phil Collins.
Can
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
And this is like the first time I've ever said anything, and so before I get shut down,
I'm trying to lighten the mood because I lost my temper. But
no,
sorry, Steve.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm sorry that I yelled, but it's so you have no idea how frustrating it is. You have no idea how frustrating it is.
Yeah, how frustrating it is when people play. Anyhow, two things. It really pisses me off when atheists, which are part of your audience sort of traditionally, do the whole moral purity thing, because you don't believe you have a soul, and yet you need to preserve your moral purity. It doesn't, like, that really kind of just pisses me off. But for the third party thing, I think the most telling thing is that if you ask somebody who thinks that, they need a third party what the winning formula is, it's the same thing as asking them, what are your personal policy preferences? They just sort of project that onto, well, of course, everyone wants exactly what I want, and that's the winning formula, which, is kind of narcissistic and kind of delusional, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick, you go ahead, and then I want to.
We're bags of meat. We're not agnostic, but even I recognise we're just bags of meat, and we kind of. I would like to be frozen and put through a wood chipper, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, just tell your next of kin to do it. Don't ask permission. Ask forgiveness. Just
just
do it.
I've suggested to my loved ones.
I know you were about to start to say something, but like once you start saying something, you go on for 5 minutes or 10 minutes until someone interrupts you. Right. So Nick,
see, I jinxed the perfect game. Indeed. Nick was about to say something, and then I want to get to the folks who have their hands up. So Nick, you go ahead.
Okay. So I'll try to make this quick, but I do have a bit to say. I've been waiting all month. So I don't believe that Joe Biden would have won this time. At this point, I just don't think it was possible. I was still going to vote for him, but basically just to assuage my own guilt, to say, well, hey, at least I did something. At least I tried. But sorry, you look at like the Democrat Party, and what they'll do is they'll essentially anoint someone well beforehand. They'll just decide, okay, this is the person we're going to throw all our weight behind, and you all better vote for them. Like they picked out Hillary. Look at how that went. Joe Biden, they picked him. He, they cast Bernie Sanders out essentially. Joe Biden just barely won last time, and any goodwill or benefit of the doubt he had 4 years ago has since been burned up. So I don't. If they did push forward with him, I think it would have dragged the entire party down with him for like another couple terms. And I was so relieved, just awash with relief. So happy.
Yeah. Me too. I know exactly how you feel. I was ready and, even eager to vote for Biden because of the alternative. But I did have a wave of relief wash over me, not only when he dropped out and endorsed Kamala, but when I saw how energized people were by it. I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's going to be okay.
White women were energized by it.
Yeah, so she's popular when the white women are like, we'll vote for her. Anyway, and Isaiah, you've had your hand up for a while, so why don't you go ahead?
Yes. Yes. So about people who are disabled getting treated like shit. This is actually going back to before we went live. I used to work on a film set where the crew, because I was a PA and they never really gave me anything to do. So after everything settled down, and I told them what happened, and I told them I was disabled, I had autism. The sound guy basically then said, I treat my autistic son like shit because the world's going to treat him like shit. So because they never gave me anything to do, they had me there from 7. This was like a couple of years ago, and by the way, like they had me there from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. But I only did like 20 minutes of work, so I was just sitting around doing nothing. And when I like tried to like explain this to them, they were like, well, there's always stuff to do, you should just find stuff to do. It's like, well, if there's not shit to do, then I'm not going to keep asking you every 20 seconds on what to do. Do you know how unprofessional that is? Oh, I'm done with this. What now? Oh, I'm doing this. What now? Yeah.
No,
That's
it makes perfect sense to me. I would hate that too. I would hate having to keep having to run to the boss. What do I do now, boss? Like, just give me a list. Just give me a list of shit you want me to do.
That's kind of why I don't really want to do film anymore, because that kind of I don't know.
That sucks.
You need the right people.
Yeah.
I just work on cosplay now.
Yeah, well, it's just too bad you can't do that for a living. Maybe you can. I don't know.
It's a lot of work to try to be a professional cosplayer, because it's just like being a professional YouTuber as well.
I get that. I get that impression. It's the cosplayers I've seen on social media that are big enough that it seems like that's their full-time job. It's like, yeah, God, it just looks like there's so much work that goes into that. Like making like a good cosplay that's, professional looking enough that you could actually, get people to, join your Patreon or whatever, like just to help you do cosplay like that. It looks like so much work.
Most of them are like, and I don't want to sound weirdly sexist when I say this, but many of them are like white women who like have to like.
They're professional hot girls, so that's how they're professional cosplayers as well.
They accentuate their bodies, and they're also, if they're white, so there's all of that.
Oh yeah, definitely force multipliers and that sort of field.
Yeah.
That was true. That was true even in the atheist YouTube community.
Yeah.
Oh boy, was it?
That's why I always tend to say white women with autism get treated better, but they still have to deal with sexism. Although I do see white women who are autistic try to platform non-white people who are autistic. That's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of a good example of intersectionality. You can see that principle at work. That like white people don't suffer as much from the discrimination as people of color do. But they still experience it. They just don't experience it compounded by the other factors that white people don't have to deal with. Lessons learned got up and walked away. I was going to call on him next. So Geek, you go ahead.
I'll get back to lessons learned when he comes back. But let's we know how like last month we had June, which is Pride Month because of Stonewall Riots. February is Black History Month, the shortest month of the year.
Coincidentally.
Basically, like let's whitewash MLK month and get rid of all the stuff he said about, I don't know, militarism, jingoism,
Vietnam. Yeah, get rid of all that stuff. Yeah, so whitewash them down to just like we had a dream, and not like I came out on top of the mountain and all that.
Racism ended that day, April. What was it? August 23rd, 1963. That was the day racism ended.
I guess so. Yeah, but also there is like Asian America, Nathan Hawaiian, and Island Pacific month in May. So remember that. It is Indigenous Peoples Month in November. Remember that. Even though there's indigenous people everywhere, and every month is their month. And also it's September 15th to October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month. These are just all in the United States of America, as I remember. So there's not like in May is not the Asian month like all the rest of the world as well too. July is also a month of recognizing another marginalized group. It's Disability Pride Month, in honor of the passing of like the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, as well too.
By a Republican.
Yeah, happened to be by a Republican, but it was a lot of like grassroots effort to like pressure people to like pass that kind of bill, which is a landmark bill, because I don't think there's any other bill kind of like that has been passed. There's still criticism of the bill because there's no freshman mechanism as well too. And so, proud to be disabled is kind of like how some queer people are not like proud of being like queer. They just happen to be queer. Yeah, some of us would go, yes, I'm queer. You have to deal with it, because like most of the times, like with being disabled, you're ashamed for being that as well too. As we're living in an able society, the society's like built around like able-bodied people, assuming people are able-bodied. So yeah, that's why Disability Pride is this. And just gonna like take that and then say, please, 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 please give money to Joanna Roberts. She doesn't have money, and she doesn't have food, and she doesn't get paid until like maybe the 1st. She honestly does not know how she can give money feed her kid or like herself last night. So she was begging for that in their Discord and like private message me, and I'm just tapped out. I honestly am tapped out until like this Friday. So I have no way to like give her money as well too. And why does she like have to beg online in order to like live for the past 7 years, for as long as I've known her? Well, SSDI only gives her like $1,200 a month or something like that. And yeah, so there's like, yeah, it's great that the ADA is passed, and it's great that we have like some services like the Social Security Disabled insurance and like a supplemental security insurance with SSI. Oh boy, there's a lot of problems with those sort of things too. So please, please, please consider to like give money to like Joanna Roberts and to Joy Lame Deer and to like Phoenix as well, because like, yeah, they've been like struggling with this as well. Phoenix, both Joey and Phoenix were denied SSI, and because so many like problems with the system still as it is, because we live in a inherently ableist society. And I'm done. I'll now give.
I just want to piggyback on what
Sure.
Geek said, as far as months go. No, and I think there are people who are not whether it's gay pride or pride or whatever. The people who are not part of that don't understand why you're proud. It's not it's not that someone's proud of that being in that state. It's a matter of, like you said, if you've been denigrated for who you are. Yeah. It's the idea, hey, I can be who I am, and it's okay that I am who I am, and you shouldn't denigrate me. And as far as the History Months, I had someone challenge me on Black History Month, and they said, well, should we have Hispanic American History Month? I'm like, why not?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
definitely.
If there's a group of people who have contributed to America and we're not recognizing their accomplishments, and absolutely, we should have some recognition of that.
What's the objection? Yeah.
Something I want to remind everybody that in Canada, there is a memorial service every year for all the autistic people whose guardians snuffed them. Either because the guardian was on their way out and thought, well, who's going to look after them when I'm gone? Or just people who think like, oh, being autistic is a fate worse than death, so they kill them.
Yeah,
so just remember that every year there is a memorial service of sorts for all the fallen autists who were murdered by the people who were supposed to protect them.
As somebody who worked
go ahead.
Yeah, as somebody who worked in that basic kind of field, not just autistic people, but people with special needs in general, that happens way more than you'd think it would. A bunch of aging parents before they go out will do that because they don't want their person to be in the system, and it sucks.
It made me think of the story, the Trump story that came out last week about I guess one of Trump's nephews is publishing a book, and he tells a story of when Trump was president, and I don't know if he called him or he actually visited him in the Oval Office, but Trump's end of this conversation at least took place in the White House in the Oval Office, and it was Trump's nephew, the son of his dead brother. And Trump's nephew has a child that is special needs, and I don't know like exactly what their situation is. It seems like the impression I get is that they are like profoundly disabled, like they need 24-hour care, that kind of thing. And so this is Trump's grandnephew, right? And Trump's nephew is going to him as while he's the president and just asking him just for some financial support, because the medical bills are, a lot to deal with a child that needs all this specialized care. And Trump says to his nephew about his grandnephew, maybe, he doesn't even recognize you anymore. Maybe it's better if you just let him go. And then he said more broadly, I feel like sometimes with people like this, that are just that disabled, like maybe it's better for everybody if they're just not here.
Eugenics,
and and like,
does it remind you of anybody?
And nobody's
the 1930s.
and like it was this past week And like already nobody's talking about it. Like it's just gone completely out of the discourse. I'm like he wanted.
You know what the most
J.D. Vance said that guy is like Hitler.
What?
Yeah,
you know what the most.
I know, right?
What the
You know what,
ever
oddly,
living?
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead, Nick.
You know what, oddly, the most frustrating part of all this is? Every time Trump says something like that, he thinks he's the first person to have that idea.
God.
He thinks it's such an original thought, like, hey, why haven't we tried that before? Disabled people were the first ones.
It was bad.
Disabled people were the first ones the Nazis killed. Basically, it's a trial run to see what they could get away with.
Mm-hmm.
The disabled, and mentally ill, mentally handicapped, and
every idea Trump has, he thinks he's the first person to ever think of it. Remember when Notre Dame was on fire?
Fake.
When Notre Dame was on fire, and he was like, "Tell them to drop water on it. Tell them to get airplanes that they used to fight forest fires and drop water on it." And I'm like, do you think the professional firefighters over there trying to save this priceless historic landmark haven't thought of that? And if they're not doing it, there's probably a reason why they're not doing it. You fucking dipshit.
No, Trump thinks they're standing outside with their hands on their hips going, yeah, well, you know, it's beyond saving. Let's just let it burn.
I mean,
to the foundations. Yeah,
this is the same guy
problem.
that thought if you put bleach on the outside of stuff, it disinfects. Why don't you drink bleach?
This is the guy who
the same guy.
or nuke a hurricane,
or sweep the forest floor to stop forest fires.
Yeah, the guy wanted to nuke a hurricane.
Autistic people are dumb, but it's like
Trump thinks that in the UK we live in forest cities.
Oh, no.
Like he made a statement in the UK we live in forest cities.
Like he saw a Robin Hood movie and he thought, well, that must be the way it is.
Nottingham.
I'm gonna be back in the UK in late September. I have yet to see these forest cities.
Where are the tree houses? Why have you not been showing me the tree houses?
The closest you'll get to it, it's somewhere like where I live, which is 4 miles outside Wolverhampton, and I live in a small village where there are lots of tall trees around the social housing. That's the closest you'll get to a forest city. When I replied on Twitter, I said I want an Ewok emoji. You know, yes, we all live in forest cities. Here's my Ewok emoji.
I wasn't joking, by the way. He really said, like during an interview, that he invented the word fake.
I believe you. What? I don't. Well, he thinks he invents all kinds of words.
Well, can I say something?
Go ahead. And your lessons learned. Your hand was up for a while anyway. So
change. I was to something I said earlier about changing the party and all that. And I want to commend Rashid Tlaib for what she did in Congress while Netanyahu was there. Right, she was able to do a protest that garnered attention, said exactly what she needed to say, and wasn't really disruptive while everybody else was clapping, like flying monkeys at whatever Netanyahu was saying, and doing the up and down. They're doing the Catholic thing when we go up and down and up and down and up and down. And it's like, and I'm like, oh God, but commend her to her. But let's say also that there is a lot of difficulties in the Democratic Party because the standard bearers, they close ranks the moment somebody says, "Oh, by the way, I like to do something a little bit different," and it's happened to multiple candidates. I think the minority whip was who got voted out because IPAC put like $3 million on his race.
Yeah,
that kind of helped.
Oh yeah. I
mean, so if you're gonna have to do something very weird, which is do not announce to the leaders that you want the things that people want to vote for you, but then the people who want to vote for you need to hear those things. So you have to do that two-step tango. Like, I don't really mean that. I really want, socialized healthcare, but don't tell the party all those, right?
Yeah.
It's it's a thing. And I think also you have to reform the whole aspect of the advisors and the people who make things run, because I've been watching a lot of West Wing and how they do elections. So the Toby Siglers and stuff like that, those are the people you have to get out of the room and get somebody who both has the brains and the willingness to actually move things forward, right?
And someone who is more in touch with the present moment. Like I'm sure James Carville was great 30 years ago. James Carville is not the guy they need to be talking to now.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Well, he got trash alongside who was the this other jackass who actually got taken off from Fox News. When what's his name? Jon Stewart did that appearance. I watched it live. And he's like, "You people are just, screaming monkeys. That's what you do."
Oh, Paul
That's all.
Begala. Yeah.
And but it was he showed in that live interview that was Crossfire, and he destroyed that show. That show got canceled the next day. No more Crossfire, right? So I think from that day on, all of them, the three of them, because what's his name that he was on Fox? Oh my God, he was so popular. Thank God.
Oh, Tucker Carlson. It was Paul Begala and Tucker Carlson that were on there.
Tucky Tuck basically ended up in the wilderness for like a decade or two until he got into the banner of I am the one who hates the most. Now he's stuck in X, in X territory.
Yeah. So, he got his dream job on Fox, and then he fucked that up somehow. And now he's hosting a show on Twitter.
Next,
Joe McCoy.
Okay.
Joe, yeah.
So, first thing was when we were talking about not voting and whatnot. There is a argument that, at least in the for the presidency, there is an impact you can make so long as you still vote and don't vote for the president. Like, it will show up in stats if you were to vote for all the down ballots, to vote for all the ballot initiatives, and not vote or vote for third party for the other thing. So if somebody is dead set on they morally cannot, it's less important now because we don't have a genocide cheerleader as the head of the party. But you can at least send that signal that you will not send if you just don't vote. Like, they will just dismiss you as a non-voter. And the second thing was the talk what you were saying about what the Republicans did with the Tea Party, or what the Tea Party did to the Republicans. I'm not saying that we can't impact the party or what would end up being the more progressive party in that fashion, but it is disingenuous to assume that it's possible that the most progressive or the most what's the word, like, furthest, the actual big changes, revolutionary, that's the word I was looking for, that you can actually do that in the same fashion, because the Tea Party wasn't just the bottom up, crazy people banding together. It was those people banding together with the funding of billionaires that also had crazy like social plans for, you might find billionaires that are willing to support, like, wink wink, I don't want, Jews or black people around, but you're not going to find billionaires to support I don't want billionaires.
Yeah. Well, probably not. I'll give you this much. I'll agree with you this much on that point. It was probably a lot easier for the Tea Party to exert controlling influence on the Republican Party than it would be for the left to exert controlling influence on the Democratic Party, at least in that short of a time frame.
Oh yeah.
Because the Republican Party was always, naturally aligned with what the Tea Party wanted. Like what the Tea Party did, the Tea Party didn't really change the goals of the Republican Party so much as they just brought certain things further to the front and more out in the open, right? Like the fundamental nature of the Republican Party didn't really change as a result of the Tea Party.
But here's the thing, Steve, and this is I've been seething, but because here's the thing though, this didn't just start with the Tea Party.
Nope.
This started in the 60s. This started in the 60s. So this has been a 60 plus years, 60-year effort to drive the party to where it is now. Actually started in the 50s with the John Birch Society, which actually started ripping Southern Democrats out of the Democratic Party because a lot of people don't realize the Democratic Party started as a southern, really a southern party, and you end up northern Democrats who weren't as racist, and you had southern Democrats who were very racist. And then when they left the party, they tried as independents and saw that didn't work, and then they moved into the Republican Party, and over time have taken the Republican Party over. But this is the problem: is that our side is impatient and arrogant and provincial and proprietary. We've been, if you look at all the people that we all agree are marginalized people, racial minorities, ethnic minorities, religious minorities, LGBTQ, poor white people, and women, we're like 78% of the population. But we're all, playing the victim Olympics, who has it worse, as if it fucking mattered. And then we get into like, well, I didn't get my way this time, so it doesn't matter. Voting didn't change everything today, so fuck tomorrow. And I'm so fucking fed up with it, particularly with white people, because as a black person who basically, I tried to explain to I think I mentioned this before, to a Republican person that I know that wanted to understand why black people stopped voting Republican across the 60s. Between 1960, black people were a solid Republican vote. 1972, they were solid Democratic vote. He's like, what the fuck happened? And the thing is, it wasn't that black people thought that the Democrats were saviors. It was harm reduction. If you can't make progress, then hold your ground. Don't lose fucking ground. So all the people in 2016 who just morally just couldn't vote for Hillary, well, how is your conscience good if Trump gets in and he gets 3 Supreme Court justices and they overturn Roe and they start doing a whole lot of other damage? So this is the thing. I dropped a friend, someone I was close friends with for a long time. We were a little estranged in recent days, and I was trying to actually try to patch it up, but I let them go. Because again, this over this thing about the Palestinians. Now I weep for the Palestinians, and I give money to Palestinian causes, not Hamas, because make no mistake, Hamas would have killed just as many Israelis had they had the means to do so. So yeah, they're no better. Hamas is no better than the IDF. But here's the calculation I made in 2020, with Biden. Everyone told me Biden was a racist. I said, okay, well, if Biden is a racist, let me accept that. I'll steel man the argument. Trump's a racist too. So then racism is no longer a criteria for me, because if I'm going to get a racist no matter what I do, now I have to look at other things. And this is what happened with that friend of mine, because their thing was, well, okay, look, the Biden administration is supporting Israel, right? It's not good. And if you feel that's a genocide, I wouldn't argue with you that it is. So we're all on the hook for that, because whether we're for that or not, it's our country doing it in our name. But my vote, if Biden was still the candidate, my vote wouldn't change that. I mean, although the Biden administration has been putting pressure on Netanyahu in a way that Trump would have hit the accelerator. So even from that perspective, as a weighted average, I'd say, well, Trump's going to make it worse for the Palestinians than it already is. So if I can't improve the lot of the Palestinians, I want to at least look out for my LGBTQ friends. I want to look out for women. I want to look out for poor people. I want to look out for racial minorities, ethnic minorities. But this person basically has turned to nihilism. They literally were praising Aaron Bushnell and saying that's what we deserve. And I'm like, well, so wait, so you're telling, and their thing is, I'm not going to tell somebody to vote in favor of genocide to support my rights. I said, yeah, but that's not what you're doing. You're telling others that basically you're telling all the marginalized people, fuck them, because we as a nation are doing something terrible. So we're not, they literally said, we're not deserving. And I'm like, I'm done with you. I can't go down this road with you, because that's nihilism. If you can't, always take a step, because here's the other thing too. I agree, Joe. It would take a lot more effort. It'd be harder to get the Democratic Party to shift the way you want it to go, but it's not impossible. And to think it was going to take effort, it's going to take time. But we have to stop this. I didn't get my way today. Now, here's one thing, and something Geek brought up I think is very important. So Geek, every week, every time you bring up people that are suffering that need help, and that's awesome. That's a beautiful thing that you do. But here's the thing, direct action is not enough. It's necessary. We need to be doing direct action. We need to be doing mutual aid, but it's not enough. Now, voting is also not enough. But there's a lot of people who vote and then they basically think they wash their hands, they think their job is over, and they don't put pressure on their representatives. They don't schedule a meeting with their representative. They don't go to town hall meetings. They don't write or call their representatives or the senator's office. So they think, and then they don't get what they want, and they go, oh well, my voting didn't do anything, or they don't pay attention at all. We need all of it, and people need to be active, and they need to get off their fucking asses and stop complaining about shit. As far as real quick on Biden became the nominee because black people in South Carolina voted for him in large numbers, and the turnout in the primaries was 15%. 15. So all it would have taken for any candidate is that all their people showed up for the fucking primary or caucus in their state, and they could have made a difference, and they didn't. That's how the process works. Democracy depends on you, demos, people. So if you don't participate, you sit back and do nothing, then whatever happens, because here's the thing, doing nothing is also a choice. And if you do nothing and bad things happen and you could have stopped it, your hands are just as dirty as the rest of ours.
Yeah, well,
your hands are not clean.
Yeah.
You may not be at fault, but you are morally culpable, just like the rest of us. Just like those of us who don't want bad things to be happening to the Palestinians, and it's still happening anyway. We're still morally culpable. Well, if you sit back and you go, oh, I go in and got ice cream instead of voting for the two people I didn't like, well, fuck you. You're just as fucking guilty as the rest of us.
Can
I? Kara was trying to break in, and then Nick. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say the only thing that evil needs to triumph is for good people to do nothing. And voting's just the first stage. You have to then keep going back to your, well, in our case, it's our MP for our area, and demand meetings. Say, you said you do X, Y, and Z. I want a meeting to see how you've addressed this. Even if they sit in front of you and squirm. And I've had a few of my MPs in the UK squirm.
That was actually a very powerful speech there, Serious Mind. It kind of made me...
Well, I will suggest one thing. There isn't a path that can be something with shortcut that the GOP already has used. And the thing is that the Democrats are now making the link, and this is an organizational thing in the party sense, and that is voter initiatives and changes on the state level. Like there's a lot of states, even in red states, they're saying, no, okay, you want to leave it to the states on abortion? Well, we want that right. And they're winning. So the Democrats have to go and say, because the Republicans are making the connection. Oh, look at all these outside money, and the Democrats are being dirty and all that. Well, if the other side is saying that you're doing it, might as well do it because it is popular and people want it. Make that link. Go state by state. Oh, it's states' rights? Okay, let's test that. California, what do you think? Ohio, what do you think? Florida, what do you think? And you're gonna lose some. I'll probably lose Florida. We'll lose some states.
It's actually on the ballot in Florida.
Or you can win, and if you can keep on doing it, right? And then you put it on the legislature, which did with they actually negated the whole prisoners can vote thing. Okay, then you run on that. These people are liars. They talk about freedom, but when you act, they tell you that your act doesn't matter, right? That's a shortcut in a way of saying we're present and we're also acting outside of election, because many of the times it's going to be done anytime. Doesn't have to be done every 4 years. So if you have that, and you also do the things where you go and challenge, the vote for sheriff, you challenge the vote for the local school district, you challenge the vote for dog catcher, right? That's how the evangelicals and others and Tea Party did it. They began on the groundswell. Don't wait for when you're a parent and you have like 5 people that want your gay kid to be thrown bodily into the closet to then protest, right? You get somebody elected or 2 people elected, or you make them work for it. And because a lot of people, these are people with free time. This is the old lady who, she's either the HOA Karen or she runs, the school board, right? She doesn't have enough time in her life for either of it. You challenge them. It's like, oh, you want to do this? Fine. It's gonna be hard on you, right? And I think that's, to go to Serious Mind's take on it, it's not just simply, I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be done. And I'm guilty of doing a lot of them. But I also will say about Kamala, that Kamala actually understands, and this is my counter to what Serious is saying, and even Steve, that you have to earn your vote.
Yeah.
You cannot just simply go out there and go like, well, I am the better choice because these people are literally flaming piles of dog shit, right? Because they are people who will
Absolutely.
happily stand there and get the stench. It's like, oh, this is my stench. You know, they're sectarian political people who will always vote because that's my group and they'll support it. You got to go and say, you know what? I hear you. I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to at least try. I had to earn your vote because this is a campaign and campaigns are meant to be won.
Yeah.
And I think Kamala's doing that. Kamala's saying, I hear you and I'm going to do it.
And just to add to what you're saying is that the one place I will gig the Democrats on in a big way is that it's similar but slightly tangential to what you're saying. But I think one of the biggest problems I think the Democrats have is, well, there's actually really two problems, but basically that one, when they do accomplish something, that they don't do a very good job of letting anybody know it. And the other thing, and probably more important though, is that they're always trying to take the temperature, but in a way that's kind of weak. So basically what happens is if you look at the Republicans, they just go out like, well, we're doing this and we're doing that. And they just say it with confidence. They're not worried about, they don't care who they offend, right? And the Democrats, because they come off it, they're afraid of being perceived as weak. So they end up acting weak. Same thing happened with the invasion of Iraq. They were against it, but they knew the populace was in favor of it, and they were afraid of people will say, "Oh, you're weak because you don't want to support this unjustified war." So then they were kind of, well, we still have questions, and blah blah blah. And they tried to talk out of both sides of their mouth, and people don't trust you when you do that. So you have to go out there and say, "This is what we're for, and here's why we're for it." And stand up for it. And then I think if people, because I think that's the reason why I think, why maybe people like Geek who don't have any belief that the Democrats are going to follow through is that, well, they've done a weak job of basically convincing anybody that they're going to follow through.
So
and
can I
go ahead, Nick. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay. I don't want anybody to lose their temper at me because keep in mind what I'm about to say is not what I think or believe. I'm just trying to explain a couple of the rationales that I've heard over the years. One argument that again I don't believe is that well, if you just vote for them every time, then the Democrats are going to take your vote for granted. They'll just go, we don't actually have to do anything because these suckers will just keep voting for us every time.
What's their alternative?
So the mindset is, well, if we hold our votes hostage, if we say, hey, we're not going to vote for you unless you do this, that, and the other, well, then they'll have to actually accept what happens. The Democrats just veer to the right and try to appeal more to conservatives and old people. Another thing, so the pendulum. People always love to say, oh, the pendulum, it swings one way and then it swings the other way. Not in my experience, it's just slowly crept to the right over time, the ratcheting of. And I understand people who are dejected, who are like, well, I don't get it. I've been voting like my entire adult life and things keep getting worse. What am I supposed to do? Like, I get that. Because like the argument of like harm mitigation, like, oh, well, no matter who wins, we're going to get screwed. But at least if the Democrat wins, we'll get screwed a little less. We'll die just a little more slowly. And you have to understand how depressing that is. Where like the best we can hope for is that voting for the lesser of two evils, we still end up a little more evil at the end of that day. And then the next time, a little more evil. Do you understand like how
I get it, and quite frankly, as far as the feeling depressed that you don't get better than just we're not getting hurt, or at least not directly hurt, or not hurt as bad. Again, that's the life of every Black person since 1865. So but here's one thing though, as far and I understand all those points. One thing I will say though, so now I do vote regularly. The Democratic Party calls me. They called my wife. They call other people I know. But that's the thing is that it's like you can't protest something that you don't participate in. Like I wasn't already not buying Chick-fil-A. So when I found out that they were being run by a homophobic organization, yeah, I can boycott, but it doesn't mean anything because I wasn't buying their shit anyway. So me not showing up, they have no reason to know why I didn't show up. But if they called me this year and I said, I'm not really feeling it because I'm really not happy with Biden, or I'm not happy with our Palestinian policy, that would have carried weight. Because they were wondering, like, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? You going to vote for us? You're in. They gave me a platform because I vote regularly.
Yeah, I mean, one of the points I've tried to make over the years is that it is a two-sided thing. Like, I'm just as frustrated with the Democratic Party as an institution as I am with progressive voters who don't vote, right? I do feel like both have fault to be responsible for. You know, I would love as much as anybody for the Democrats to do more to reach out to progressives who don't vote and give them a reason to vote for them. You know, like I would love, and like what Serious Mind was saying about just how mealy-mouthed Democrats can be and how timid they can be and how hand-wringing they can be, like in public, in front of everybody. I mean, everybody do that behind the scenes, guys. Like, when was the last time you saw a Republican politician go out in front of cameras and act like, oh, gee, I don't know, what should we do? And Democrats they just project that vibe all the time. And it's not encouraging. And it doesn't project an image of, you should let us be in charge of this thing. You should vote for us because we've got this handled. We know just what to do, right? So the party is at fault as well as the voters. And you know, it's frustrating because it becomes like a perpetuating cycle where Democrats don't think it's worth pursuing progressive voters because progressive voters aren't reliable voters, and progressive voters aren't reliable voters because they don't think the Democratic Party cares about them. and it just constantly builds on itself. And like Nick said, the long-term effect of it is the party keeps ticking further to the right because that's where they perceive the voters as being.
Right.
Political parties go where the voters are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and Steve, to your point about, you know, the hand-wringing, look at the abject panic after the debate. Again, that shit should have happened like behind closed doors, but it was happening all in the open, and it was like, oh, great. If you know,
yeah.
So in a way, it's good that he dropped out. So, and then I'm so glad. I didn't think we were going to get the wave of enthusiasm we got, but I am thrilled. I'm thrilled to be wrong about that. But up to that point, I'm thinking, great. If we did have a chance, we don't have a chance now because everybody's fucking, you know, diving into apoplexy.
Yeah. Just I mean, I'm not someone who believes that image is everything. Like, I do feel like we need to be a party of actual principles and values because, you know, if for no other reason than to cut a sharp contrast with the Republicans. But I do feel like there is some value in try to keep your shit together in public. You know, like there needs to be discussion, there needs to be debate, there needs to be back and forth between the various wings of the party. And especially if what I wish would someday come true, and there does get to be a large enough progressive wing in the party that, you know, that actually becomes a more influential block of the party. Like, there's going to be arguments, there's going to be debates. But can we at least try not to project an image of chaos and weakness and nobody knows what's going on,
and
you know,
fatalism.
and fatalism, you know, because that's not going to get us anywhere, you know?
I mean, you got two politicians that I think are doing that one well, one not so much, but still doing it. That's Gabe Newsom out of California. He'll debate anybody.
Oh yeah, he's good. Yeah.
And Pete Buttigieg, which if he didn't have his own baggage, because the problem with Pete is that he kind of comes out of mealy mouth. Oh, I'm going to attack the Republicans. We were like, yeah, but that train that exploded, that happened in your watch. And so, you know, he should address that. Like, okay, this is what we're going to do about that. This is a mistake. This is what we're doing. Let's move on, right? You gotta have a leader. So it's like, so when somebody points a mistake, and this is the weakness of the Republicans, if you're willing to exploit it, someone says, oh, in so and so you did that. It's like, yeah, we did it. This is what happened. This is why it happened, and this is what we learned about it, and this is what we're gonna do about it. What is your plan? You put the Republican in the hot to say, okay, you're afraid of admitting your mistakes because that's what you want to create this fantasy world where nothing, it's always good as long as you're in charge, right? You know, big daddy government. We're the party that confronts reality. If we make a mistake, we confront it. If you make a mistake, we're going to call you out on it, and this is what we're going to do. Right. And if you have somebody that can argue that, I think a lot, even the people who are not going to vote for you because you think you're just flaming communist is going to bring, you know, revive Lenin out of the crystal tomb. You know, it's still, they're going to go like, oh, well, I respect that guy because, you know, he stands for something.
There's lots of people who voted for Trump that didn't like any of his policies, but they thought he tells it like it is and he speaks his mind.
You know what's amazing? It's not a huge percentage. It's like 5%. But some of Trump's voters who are frankly sick of him, something changed along the way, I guess. Some of them have flipped to supporting Harris. Isn't that what? Again, it's a fairly low percentage, but there are some people who were going to vote for Trump who now have completely flipped. That is stunning.
I mean, I think it always surprises me, as someone who tries to pay fairly close attention to things, how many people just don't pay attention to it at all. I mean, like I was listening to a political podcast the other day. I can't remember which one it was, but someone said, and this was like a few days after Biden dropped out and endorsed Harris. And like the first, like within a day or so, there were new polls being released that showed Harris polling, at least if not overtaking Trump, at least polling better than Biden had been against Trump in the same polls. And this podcaster said, and keep in mind, this is just within the first few days. A lot of Americans don't know that Kamala Harris is running yet. And I thought, and my first thought was, how the fuck is that possible?
Oh, there's a lot of low information builders.
Yeah, and I always have to remind myself of that. I always have to remind there are so many people who just and some of that is justified because maybe they work 80 hours a week, or they have a bunch of kids, or they have family issues, or they just have other shit to do. But there's a lot of people that I don't think have those excuses, that just don't pay attention to who's running the country. And it's like a week later, they'll be like, "Oh, the vice president's running,"
Yeah, I had a conversation at work about that. Somebody had mentioned that they had thought that Kamala had dropped out at least temporarily after Joe Biden said that, essentially before he gave the speech, but had tweeted that he was doing that. And what they were pointing at was some reports that during that period where she was trying to get support and people behind her for when she formally accepted his endorsement to follow her, she was saying like, well, it hasn't been decided yet, I'm not
it's
I think
go ahead.
I think the biggest sign that this was the right move was how Republicans are losing their shit over it. Suddenly pretending that they care about Biden and that his own party screwed him over. Let's be clear. They wanted him to stay in the race because they knew he would be easy to beat. Now they're dealing with someone who might actually give them a fight, and they don't like that.
They're calling it a coup.
No fair.
Unironically calling it a coup.
They're calling it a coup that the president voluntarily withdrew from the race and endorsed his vice president as the new candidate. That's a coup somehow.
Really though, it's like a kid going, "It's not fair. I'm taking my ball home."
Wish they did.
Republicans always have to.
My ball. I'm going home.
Republicans always have to accuse other people of what they're doing. So they try to coup and it fails. Oh no, that's the Democrats' coup. See how they're we're the same somehow. Or like bringing up racism is racist or something.
We're running into the end of the show, so I want to get to the folks who've had their hands up for a while. So Isaiah, go for it.
Oh, Steve, I know you're a space fan.
I am.
Have you seen my vintage Space Camp 80s jacket in the background over there?
I see that. And I think I saw you tweeting, or not tweeting, but posting about it on Facebook recently. And it got me, look at that. That is cool.
It has the little ridges. Those little
I dig it. You inspired me. I want to watch Space Camp at some point.
I watched it.
I was gonna try to watch it this past week, but I didn't have time. But as soon as I have a free couple of hours where I don't have anything else I need to do, I really, because I love that movie when I was a kid, and I haven't watched it in so long. And I saw you. I think you were holding up like your VHS copy of it or something. And I was like, oh man, I want to watch Space Camp. So I'm gonna.
I have the DVD though.
The DVD. There you go. Yeah. But I used to really love that movie.
It's such a cute movie.
Isaiah, is that cosplay or is that like a legit space camp jacket?
Well, it's a legit jacket. You can actually wear it. I can put it on and wear it. It was so as you can see the tag here, it says U.S. Space and Rocket Center or U.S. Space Camp, which is at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, which I still have to go to one day. Although I am going to the Kennedy Space Center in October, but I can
That's
put
cool.
on.
Nice.
That is
Nice.
awesome, my friend. That is awesome.
Yeah. I almost said 12-year-old. That's a little old. Maybe 10-year-old me would have been incredibly envious of you right now, because I love that movie and I wanted to go to space camp, but I never actually got to go to space camp. But I was like, oh man, that's for me.
You know, it'll be nice if I go down there and they actually like my outfits and they actually like hire me to build spacesuits for them. That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Kara, now it's your
Kara,
turn.
yes, go for it.
Go
Kara's
ahead.
been sitting there vibrating all this time.
Well, it's actually to go back to Biden, and I remember when I first joined your channel some years ago, and you were talking about RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and you said, I seriously think someone should have taken her aside, family member of her staff, and said, Ruth, you've done great service to this country. You've been a great judge. You've done things that nobody thought somebody in your position could do, but it's time for you to step down, which is one of the reasons when a lot of people said to me when I said I admired Biden to friends and family, said, I think it was very courageous. And I said, oh, he's a coward. He stepped down. He shouldn't have got out of the race. And I said, hang on. You're mistaking courage for something else. You
Egotism.
really you think, and someone said, and one of my aunts who she lives in this country, and my cousin who's actually a US citizen, he phoned me, he said I don't believe what Biden's done. I said, but what do you mean? Because I didn't see anything. He's resigned in favor of a colored negress.
Oh, it's like that.
And I kind of went, okay, Chris. I see that's how
Christ.
you feel, is it? He should. A white man should not have resigned in favor of her. And I said, Chris, you do know that Biden's kind of in his late 70s, and really and truly, having seen him, he should have been taken aside and gently told, as he came to the conclusion himself, obviously, that he just couldn't, he hadn't the strength or the willpower to continue the race anymore. And he didn't think he'd win if he did. And he's passed over the baton to someone who is, now I think she's sexy. I think she's beautiful. I think she's very intelligent. And if I think she is, God knows what the intelligent people in the States think. But when Chris said this colored negress, I thought, oh God. Oh God. And I just thought, I'm really glad I blocked, you didn't respond to my friend request on Facebook. I think by now I'd have blocked
Saved a step. I would have had to unfriend you anyway.
If you need someone to talk to your cousin.
I don't think it would work.
I will jump in a little bit and say it quickly as possible because we're running out of time.
Please.
The mark of a good leader is not only someone who steps up when it's needed, but someone who's also willing to step aside when their time has come.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's important to put the people you're representing before yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
Which I didn't think he was going to do. I thought that when he said, well, at least I gave him my best, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I know.
He's making this
I was
about
the
his
same
own
way.
ego.
I was like, Joe, this isn't it. This isn't it, Joe.
So, look, I'm sure he didn't come to the decision on his own. I'm sure Nancy Pelosi and whoever else, put the pressure on him for weeks. But whatever, he did the right thing in the end. I don't care why he did it. He just said he did it.
Okay,
I
Joe.
agree completely.
Yeah. That sort of thing was actually, even before he had stepped down, was the stuff that I liked most about, like, as a person who thinks that the power is best spread amongst people. The perfect person in that position, which is way more elevated than it should be, the presidency has too much power, just flat out. The sort of person who doesn't have that many strong beliefs and is willing to have a cabinet that is mostly of appropriate people in the appropriate things and not just yes men, the sort of person that will, follow the trends and the polls because that is what the people want, is the exact sort of person we'd want to have, if not for the same person, but also is better at speaking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that was the thing. That was go ahead.
And one more thing. Somebody had mentioned Chick-fil-A earlier, and I thought it was like the funniest thing that came out of that is the during a lot of people were like boycotting them. Somebody who paid attention to a lot of fast food chicken back then, less so now, thankfully, but would have noticed that because of that niche, a lot of places upped their chicken sandwich game, and chicken sandwiches are so much better across the board now.
You're absolutely right.
Popeyes.
Even like what do you call it? Like Burger King and Arby's have good chicken sandwiches.
Almost every like big national fast food chain has a really good chicken sandwich now. Yeah, I think the Popeyes was when Popeyes introduced that one, then everybody was like, holy shit, this is like a really good fast food chicken sandwich.
It's like, they're like, oh, there's a market.
The funny thing is, I stopped eating Chick-fil-A, like I said, long before. They used to make like a chicken pocket thing. It was kind of like a chicken board pocket thing. This is back in the 90s.
Yeah. There wasn't a Chick-fil-A anywhere nearby until the boycott.
There was one in one of the malls near me at the time. And then, but then when they dropped that, like the rest of their chicken wasn't that impressive. And I'll admit, after the kerfuffle kind of died down, just out of curiosity, because I had so many people who claimed to be LGBTQ allies who were like, oh, but it's so delicious. So I'm like, all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and get one sandwich as my own test. And I tasted it. I'm like, this dry ass chicken board. If this is what you think is delicious, you have no taste buds and you hate your gay friend.
Yeah. I thought the same thing.
I don't know. I had a gay friend at university. Now, okay, I quite like my food, although I'm no gourmand. But he would think that, you would put something like a roast in front of him, and he'd kind of go, it's okay. And he'd give him a sort of, and he was going to tell you, yeah, he'd be eating Monster Mash and go, it's a crisp, shaped crisp, sort of spiciest flavors. And we say, yeah, but your attitude to food, Greg, is Monster Munch or flavored crisps like Quavers or anything like, or Pringles, like that, are just as good as a roast dinner. I used to think, oh, for God's sake. But to kind of close up, really thinking about the nuclear football as it's known, and the president's in charge of this bit of kit. Does anyone seriously think, who gives an iota of their brain cells to it, that Trump should be in charge of this?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, this is a man who makes words up like fuck Kofifi.
Yes.
and wanted to nuke a hurricane.
Wanted to nuke a hurricane. Well, that's the thing about I mean, like, there are so many, like, just individual issues that one thing should disqualify Trump. Like, nobody, like, do you really want him to have the nuclear codes? Like, that by itself should be enough to be like, no, I can't vote for that guy. Do you really want this guy to appoint Supreme Court justices? That by itself should have been enough. But people just, they have their, their prejudices.
When he references Hannibal Lecter, and you're thinking, Mr. Trump, you do know he's a fictional character. He might have been based on real people, but really and truly, he didn't exist. He's based on a chap called Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy, I think.
John Wayne Gacy is part of the inspiration,
yeah.
Trump thinks asylum means actual, like, insane asylums.
God.
And that was the
I mean,
stuff.
to be fair, if Trump was out there giving speeches referencing like real serial killers, like if he was out there name dropping Ed Gein or something, I'd be like, oh, that'd be a little scarier to me than if he was just referencing
Actually,
Hannibal Lecter means.
If he was name dropping real serial killers, people might kind of go, "Oh hell,
Yeah,
this
exactly.
guy
Well,
wants,
I mean,
this guy wants this man in his cabinet." I think we need to back up a little bit. You know, Homer in the head. You know,
name dropping Hannibal Lecter means he saw a movie. Name dropping, like the Hillside Strangler means he's done research into serial killers, and you're like, oh, this is probably even more dangerous than I thought. He's like a serial killer nerd on top of all the other scary shit about him.
I don't
well,
think
I'm
the serial
a
killer
serial
thing
killer
would...
nerd, but I mean, I like watching how they came to justice. I watch FBI Files, and I kind of watch. There's one with Joe Kendra, and he talks about the cases he's done and goes through them. And I'm really interested in that, Manhunter or something. But I wouldn't sort of say, I'm not going to write to these people in prison and go, hey, Thomas Derrick, I really liked your explanation on Manhunter, and I think you're a really interesting guy.
Yeah.
Please write back, because I think you're really exciting.
Dear BTK.
People do that, yeah.
Although I think he's dead. Didn't he die last year, BTK? Dennis Rader? I think he might have died. But anyway,
you're laughing, but there are people who write to people in jail. Particularly women, and there's women who have married like killers and rapists, and I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Well, and
I get the whole man versus bear thing. But this is I'm going to pick one of the worst men possible.
Exactly.
Explain that. What's that man versus bear thing?
I think prison pen pals is a wonderful thing. I think it's really nice to write to people in prison, and because I think in general we need to, have fewer people in prison for a start, but have more humane treatment for the people that we do have in prison. And it's the idea of write to someone in prison, give them someone to talk to, give them some positive way to occupy their time. That's great. But not if he killed like 30 people. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that guy. Like, most of them aren't like that. But if you're writing to like, a notorious like serial rapist and murderer and like child killer, like, no, to hell with that guy. Why are you writing to him?
I think I'll keep my post pal. I think I'll keep my pen pal on something called post pals, which is you write to children who have severe life limiting illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And you write them. And you sort of write to them and say, I'm sort of thinking about you. And sometimes you send them presents, sometimes you don't, because they can't always receive them.
Yeah.
Particularly children who are, and I write to them and say, and sometimes I also write to the siblings, because siblings often get overlooked or missed.
Mm-hmm.
So I've sent letters, and I've sent I think there's one girl, and she died about 3 or 4 years ago, so I sort of moved on to another one. And she, I sent her, because her name was Caitlin, so I sent her a big glass C that she could hang up outside her tent, and it kind of caught the light.
But I was just thinking about it, though. It's like, let me see. I could choose the bear. I could choose random man in the forest, or one that's a known killer.
That makes it a little easier, doesn't it? I'll take my chances with the random man.
Yeah,
or the
but
bear.
but you know what the first rule is with the bear? Don't run. Back away slowly. Don't run. Mind you, if because the bear can run past you. However, if he's going to charge you, you might, and you've only got 7 seconds to live, you might as well run.
Get some exercise before the end.
Yeah,
and of course, the best rule is just, make sure that if you're ever out in the woods, make sure that you're out there with somebody else. So then you don't have to run faster than the bear. You just have to run faster than them.
Yeah. I have lots of slow friends. So basically, I'm screwed. Actually, I can run very fast in a burst, but not very long. I went to a high school graduation party on the beach, and the person who was hosting the party, her brother decided to play a prank on us. He drove his truck through the swamp, and he claimed he was like, "This is the police." And apparently, in my blind panic, I passed an all-state runner. The guy was number 6 runner in the entire state of New Jersey.
Wow!
And he said he told me, I left him in the dust.
Motivation, man. Motivation is.
You don't have to be the fastest.
And don't do what this naturalist did. He got friendly with the mother bear, and the mother bear had a cub, and so he's sitting between the bear and the cub, and he does something that no real naturalist, and I've seen them at zoos, and they always tell you, if you get into the enclosure with the animal and they've got cubs, if the main animal accepts you and just kind of walks around you, accept that. Just kind of stand there and don't do anything, because they would, for God's sake, don't touch the cubs.
Yeah.
What does he do? He puts his hand out to the cub, and the bear just went.
Oh.
And then Mother Bear kind of went, and he said, she nearly took my arm off, and he said, you can see this huge wound. And he said, yeah, I was fine with the Mother Bear. She was fine with me giving her treats. She was fine with me dropping treats on the ground for the cub. What she wasn't fine with me doing was touching her cub.
Yeah.
And I, yeah.
What did I just say?
Okay.
You'd be amazed how many people
that's
don't
why.
listen.
That's why unless it's like a child or something, whenever I see or hear about a wild animal mauling a person, I never feel bad for the person.
Yeah.
I never ever feel bad. I'm just like I'm positive you did something to incite this.
I mean, like I said, years ago when Dudley Zoo used to do this, they had some baby meerkats, and they're gorgeous, fuzzy little things. And I actually got to sit in the enclosure, and the meerkats are swarming all around me, and they're kind of climbing up me. And I'm sitting there, and I'm going, "Is this all right?" And they go, "Oh yeah, fine. Just hold your hands out. Don't clench your hands with the worms in them. You know, these squirming mealworms." And I'm kind of looking, going, "Yeah, I hope they take them, because these are live." And they're kind of squirming all over my hands. "Oh no, they'll take them. Just don't clench your hands." And I said, "Can I touch the babies?" And at least I had the sense to listen to Keith. Said, No. Just let the adults take the worms from your hands and go away. You can look at the babies, and if the babies come to you and sniff you, that's fine. Do not touch them. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. So I've got these meerkats, and one of them's on top of my head, and you can see how I am, and like this, I'm sitting there, and this meerkat's on my head, and I'm saying, "How are we going to get them down?" She goes, "Oh, they're fine. He's using you as a lookout post." I don't care if he's using me as a lookout post. I want him down right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Geek, bring this train into the station. Why don't you?
Just one thing. Not a banned account to give you a super chat for $2. Steve stakes you, but not banned account. Does Kamala have enough broad appeal to save us all? I think she does.
I think she does too. God, I certainly hope so. Yeah, thank you for the super chat. And sorry I didn't catch it earlier, but I think, I mean, she has certainly ignited a lot of enthusiasm, and that wasn't there when it was going to be Biden. So hopefully,
So don't forget charity links at the page. All the links are down there, including links for the Patreon, or the join the YouTube channel, so they can participate in some of these things. Steve, if that's correct.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely, and I promise I won't yell at them. I apologize for that. That was completely on me. I apologize.
You can always yell at me to shut up, Steve.
Kara, shut the fuck up. No, I would never say that. I would never do that. But I might actually. But no, yes, you can become a patreon.com/Steve Shives, or becoming a channel member by clicking the join button on the YouTube page. And one of the potential benefits of that is we do this once a month on the last Sunday of every month, and there are 9 of us in here in total now, because a few people dropped off during the course of it, but I tried to lock it so that there's no more than a total of 13 of us in here at any one time, because then, I mean, otherwise, I mean, it's hard for us to get words in edgewise as it is. If there were a whole bunch of us even more in here, it would be impossible. But yeah, it's sort of first come, first serve whenever I post the link, and we do this for usually a little more than an hour, but at least an hour on the last Sunday of every month, and it's fun. So
next one is August 25th. So mark that on your calendar, August 25th. And this one is exactly 4 weeks from now.
How about that? So yeah, I believe that's it. We're gonna have a nice orderly end to the show now. Go ahead.
So what's coming up on your YouTube channel?
Oh, how funny you should ask. So I have a video coming out tomorrow that actually it ended up being even timelier than I thought it would be, because one of the big stories on Twitter the last week or so has been what a huge piece of shit Elon Musk is to his trans daughter.
Yes.
And so the video I have coming out tomorrow, it references that. It doesn't have a lot of like I had it done before she started posting about him and was like dropping like receipts and going into detail about what a piece of shit he is. I kind of wish I had time to include some of that, because that is just like, man, he's an even bigger asshole than I thought he was, and I thought he was a fucking asshole before. But it references that, but then it uses that to kind of talk about the more broad issue of how basically like Republicans are in favor of child abuse.
Yeah,
they don't say that, but like there's the law that was just passed, that was signed by Governor Newsom in California, AB 1955, I think is the serial number of it, and it's a pro-trans kids and parents bill that basically says if a trans student in a California public school comes out to an employee of the school but says, but please don't tell my parents, the school the school can't out them against their will. Like the school can't out LGBTQ students without the consent of the student.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why would anybody have a problem with that? Especially when you know that a lot of the abuse that LGBTQ kids experience happens at home. So why wouldn't you want them to be able to at least have some safe haven, as they're growing up and figuring out who they want to be and how they want to be? And that's why Elon Musk said, well, I'm leaving the state. I'm moving my businesses to Texas and a bunch of parents like me are going to flee California too, because this is terrible. And it's like, what is he so upset about? What are all these Republicans so upset about? And what are the implications of this? And why is it that I tied in, there's another bill that was passed last year, I think in Florida, that is currently on hold. It was struck down by a federal court, thankfully. But that law actually says that if parents being supportive of their trans child can be used as a justification for taking the child out of their custody. The law actually says like a child receiving gender affirming care can be cited as a reason for petitioning the court to take the child out of the home.
From the party of family values.
Yeah. And so the video is about
can't
that.
we build a rocket like in The Simpsons that takes all these put all these people on that take him straight to the sun?
Exactly.
I am just glad that I never fell for Musk.
No,
I didn't either. When I first became aware of him, like I saw him like in Iron Man 2, he pops up, and and I was like, oh, Elon Musk, okay. And I never really paid much attention to him. And then by the time I started actually paying attention to him, it was more out in the open what a piece of shit he was. And I was just like, oh, okay. I don't need to.
I think what turned me off him was these stupid little stunts he pulled. Like I think he took a sink into the Twitter headquarters.
Oh yeah, let that sink in. Yeah, it's like he's like a wannabe teenage meme guy. It's like it's pathetic.
I couldn't work out what the hell he was what statement he was trying to make. What it's a full sink fallacy. It's
a pun. It's a pun. Elon Musk owns Twitter. Let that sink in.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pun.
I'm dense.
It's adolescent. Exactly. It's adolescent me, and you know I love a good pun. Okay.
I know you're awful, Joe. I nearly put something in.
I love a good.
Yeah,
I love a good pun, and I love a bad pun even more than I love a good pun. But
I nearly wrote that was awful, Steve.
It was.
Very
visceral.
Really was.
Well, here's I think the perfect description of Musk for anyone who's an RPG player or a tabletop RPG player. Elon Musk is the type. He's basically the guy who's the game master who brags about killing off the player characters. Basically, you're effectively God. You have unlimited power. There's takes zero skill to make the characters die. You just put more stuff than they can possibly handle, and they die. And there are people who think, "Oh, I killed all these." Dude, it's like basically like it's like you bragging that you killed ants. Oh wow, I killed.
You killed
tough. I killed all these ants.
You killed pretend people in a game you controlled. Congratulations. Okay. Isaiah, your hands up. Go for it. And
Quickly,
Isaiah.
Quickly.
And then I swear to God, I'm ending this show.
I just remember just a bunch of neurotypicals basically like holding up Elon Musk as like the poster child for autism, for success.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like this is the only metric you can have, Elon Musk. Although funny enough, they never give us the resources to be successful like Elon Musk.
No, you just have to be successful on your own, which is
like starting out rich.
Yeah.
I'm sure lots of autistic people, if they started out rich, could just stay rich. I'm sure.
Just give autistic people emerald mines.
Well,
yes.
Before Donald Trump's more recent financial problems, somebody did the math and said that if he had just put his money that he inherited, the $400 million he inherited, and just put it into the market with the typical 11% over long periods of time, he would have more money today than what he did in all his investments. He's that shitty of an investor that he couldn't be just randomly throwing it into the market.
Yeah, he's the definition of a guy who was born on third base and thinks he hit a triple.
Yeah.
As Ann Richards once said of George Bush. But yeah. All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. And we'll do this in 4 weeks. Thank you, Carl. Deadpool and Wolverine is awesome. Yes, if you haven't seen it, go see it. And I'll take your word for it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.